The regular season is over. We now have the official pre-lottery order, so today we're doing an end of the season mock draft. We've got a lot of videos coming out soon, and over half of you guys that watch the videos are not subscribed, so hit that button. We're also going for 7 likes on today's video, and let's get into this. In the draft lottery, the 3 teams at the top actually have the same odds, but for this video, we're still going to go in order of record. The worst record at the end of the season was in the hands of the Houston Rockets. There were some bright spots from them this season. Christian Wood, Kevin Porter Jr., rookies Jae'Sean Tate, and Kevin Martin Jr. all showed a ton of promise, but this team finished with just 17 wins. They're going to be watching the draft lottery very, very closely. If this selection falls out of the top 4, it's going to be headed to the Thunder. But here at number 1, their decision is made for them. Cade Cunningham was the projected top pick going into this season, and that hasn't changed. As a freshman at Oklahoma State, the 6'7" point guard averaged 20 points, 6 rebounds, and 4 assists, shooting 44% from the field and 40% from 3. Now, I'm not sure he's quite ready to be a floor general of an NBA offense, but with his frame and surprising as a 3-point shooter, his place in the draft didn't budge. I think the Rockets is a really interesting landing spot. Alongside the other young guys we've mentioned, this team would be really going in the right direction. With the 2nd overall pick, we've got the Detroit Pistons. The Pistons have been at this spot for practically the entire season, and for most of the year, almost every mock has them taking the same exact player, Evan Mobley. Mobley's an exciting prospect with his coordination at a 7-foot frame. This year, he averaged 16 points, 9 rebounds, and 3 blocks, shooting 58% from the field. Now, in today's league, I really don't think there are many circumstances, including this one, where it makes sense to take a big man at the top of the draft. But this isn't about what I would do. It's about what I think these teams will do. And in this scenario, I do see the Pistons taking Mobley. They had a great free agency addition with Jeremy Grant, and Saddiq Bey has been one of the best rookies this year. But even with this selection, they have a very long way to go to get out of the bottom of the league. Real quick, I need to jump in. I'm recording this after I edited the whole video, but they just released the tiebreakers for the lottery, and there's some small changes, but I don't think it changes much. The Thunder are actually going to be at 4 instead of 5, and the Cavaliers will be at 5. That doesn't really change the selection for either team. The other change is the Orlando Magic via the Chicago Bulls and the New Orleans Pelicans are swapped, but again, that doesn't have a very big effect, so let's just get back into the video, but keep this in mind. The 3rd overall pick is currently going to the Orlando Magic. In this area, you see a lot of outlets going different directions, but it's almost always one of Jalen Suggs, Jalen Green, or Jonathan Kuminga. I think the right pick here is Jalen Green, and I think that's exactly what they would do. Suggs doesn't really make a lot of sense with Markelle Fultz and Cole Anthony on the roster. Green also happens to have the most upside out of the 3, which is what the Magic really need given their situation. Coming out of high school, everyone knew Green was a freak athlete with a ton of potential with the ball in his hands, but I don't think many thought the production would be where it's at. He decided not to go to college, instead go to the G League, where in 15 games, he averaged 18 points, shooting 46% from the field, and a surprising 37% from 3. If the 3-point shooting is there coming into the NBA, given his ability to create for himself at all 3 levels, he might be a guy we look back at and wonder how he wasn't the top pick in the draft. With the 4th overall pick in the draft, we've got the Cleveland Cavaliers, whose decision really comes down to Jalen Suggs and Jonathan Kuminga, but again, with Sexton and Garland, it doesn't really make sense to go point guard, so they decide to grab Kuminga. There's always a player like him in the draft, an athletic, 6'7", 6'8" wing with a great wingspan, freakish athleticism, but with concerns on their overall ability on the offensive side. Like Jalen Green, Kuminga also decided to go to the G League, but his production wasn't nearly as impressive. He averaged 16 points and 7 rebounds, but he shot just 39% from the field and 25% from 3. I like this selection for the Cavaliers. They really have something with Sexton and Garland. I think between their 1st round pick last year, Isaac Okoro, and Kuminga, they might be able to find that 3rd guy and start climbing up the Eastern Conference standings. The 5th overall pick is going to be the Oklahoma City Thunder. This order really plays into their favor, as I think in most scenarios, Jalen Suggs is long gone. But with him here, they don't hesitate and grab him. This year, he was the floor general for a Gonzaga team that was 1 game shy of a perfect season, including the NCAA tournament. He averaged 14 points, 5 rebounds, and 5 assists, shooting 50% from the field and 34% from 3. He's a master of none, but a great overall player. There isn't a glaring weakness. He's got solid size. He's a solid both defender and playmaker, and can score at all 3 levels. Sounds a lot like his backcourt pairing Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. SGA was drafted as a point guard, but since coming into the league, he just might be the best definition of a combo guard, making the fit alongside Suggs very seamless. If the Thunder were to walk away from this draft with Suggs, the whole league would have to be scared given all the picks coming their way. 6 is probably the craziest change since the last mock, as after a win streak from the Timberwolves at the end of the season, they fell in the lottery rankings, and given that their pick is just top 3 protected, this selection is actually going to the Golden State Warriors. With the return of Klay Thompson, I really think their best course of action is just to package this selection with James Wiseman, who I really don't think is going to help this team contend in the short term and get someone that's going to really make them a true contender. But if that's not the route they decide to do, I got them going with Florida State power forward Scottie Barnes. Barnes didn't do anything crazy as a freshman. He averaged 10 points, 4 rebounds, and 4 assists, shooting 50% from the field and 28% from 3. But man, is the upside there. He can bring a lot of value right now as a defender and playmaker, especially with his decision making in the fast break. But yes, the scoring has a long way to go. The fit's so interesting though, as he shares a lot of the same characteristics with Draymond Green. I think this would allow them to have some really interesting small ball opportunities. There's no draft pick here getting into the starting lineup to address a hole, so I think this is the best selection for now. 7 is the Raptors, and I really didn't think they would have this high of lottery odds, but here we are. I think they've got some of the craziest scenarios if they're able to move up, but here at 7, I like Jalen Johnson. Between Fred VanVleet, Gary Trent Jr., assuming they bring him back, Anunoby, Siakam, and no center to really take here, there isn't an obvious route for them to go, so I think Johnson makes the most sense. There's some questions surrounding his decision not to finish off the season at Duke, but his talent is undeniable. He's a 6'9" forward that averaged 11 points, shooting 52% from the field and 44% from 3. I think what has teams so interested about him going into the draft is his ability on and off the ball. Sometimes he looks like he could be a true point forward going forward, and with the possible departure of Kyle Lowry, that wouldn't be a bad thing for the Raptors. The frame and tools are there. This is just one of those selections where you've got to gamble that'll be able to put everything together. The 8th overall pick is another team I just didn't envision being up here, and that's the New Orleans Pelicans. This is a team I would just love to see clear house and finally find the best pieces to put around their young big 3, assuming they bring Lonzo back. They've got a lot of picks coming their way, so I really don't think they need to rush this. I think it's best for them just to try and find new homes for both Adams and Bledsoe, both to unclog this roster and free up money, as once it's time to pay Zion, there's not going to be much money left to play with. I think having such a high pick really emphasizes that should be their direction. Here I've got them taking one of my favorite prospects in the draft. He's all over the place in mocks, but I really don't think teams should sleep on this guy. Last year, Halliburton was my guy. This year, that's Moses Moody. This draft thing is simple sometimes. He's 6'6" with a 7'1" wingspan. He showed his ability as a 3-and-D guy at Montfort in high school. He goes to Arkansas, takes on a bigger role in the offense, but still shows that 3-and-D skill set you're drafting him for. He averaged 17 points as a 36% three-point shooter. I think he's a guy that comes in and he gives you great minutes off the jump, but still has the potential to really exceed his draft position. In all honesty, if I'm a GM, I'm probably taking him as high as the 6th overall pick. For the last 6 picks, we're going to go kind of rapid fire. You've got the Sacramento Kings. They really hit on Halliburton. Things look bright with him and Fox, but without a clear direction or obvious player to draft, they go ahead and get the best shooter, Corey Kispert. He was a 4-year player at Gonzaga, but it's hard to ignore him after his senior season. He averaged 19 points, shooting a ridiculous 53% from the field and 44% from 3. The Magic are up next by way of the Chicago Bulls, and they go for upside and get a similar player to Green at the same position, Keon Johnson out of Tennessee. He's a freak athlete, 6'5" 2 guard that didn't have crazy production, but has all the tools to really be something serious in the future. The Hornets look to the front court and take the first foreign prospect off the board in Usman Garuba. He isn't going to space the floor just yet, but he's going to give you Kenneth Faried-esque energy on both ends at a 6'9", 7'2" wingspan frame, but has shown flashes of his offensive game developing. Josh Giddey is going to be the second foreign prospect off the board to the Spurs. The Spurs have most of their talent in the backcourt, but they're drafting for upside, and I'm not sure there's a player with much more. He's 6'8" and might be the best passer in this draft, a 6'8" point guard that looked great playing in the Australian NBL at a very young age. Sounds pretty familiar. He averaged 11 points, 7 rebounds, and 8 assists, but he struggled with efficiency, but I think last year proved to us that really shouldn't be something we're paying attention to. This is a guy that closer to the draft really might start to climb up the board. The Pacers are here at 13, and they're going James Bouknight. This is another guy I'm super high on. He has some special talent with the ball in his hands. He averaged 19 as a 6'5" shooting guard this year at UConn. If it wasn't a one-man show, he would have had some impressive efficiency. This is a guy we need to watch out for really being the steal of the draft. A lot of people think this draft really falls off after 5, which is true, but I think it could be looked at as one of the better drafts we've ever seen, if just a couple of these guys in the mid to late lottery can hit. With the last pick in the lottery, we've got the Golden State Warriors, who are going Davion Mitchell, who skyrocketed up the board after his senior season at Baylor, where he led them to an NCAA title, averaging 14 points and 6 assists, shooting 45% from 3, while being one of the top on-ball defenders in the country. If he was doing this as a freshman, he might be a top 5 pick. I really can't think of a better selection for the Warriors, a team trying to win right now. But that's the video, guys. You guys give me your thoughts in the comments below. If you liked the video, make sure you like and subscribe, and peace.